You can't go from A to Z. You got to go through the whole process.
A lot of people shy away from doing the work. It'll be easier for you to come and help me shadow what I'm doing. As you shadow me, so much more will be taught. But they didn't want to shadow me.
He was taking photos, and once again, he stumbled across somebody being willing to pay him. Wait a minute, I can monetize this? Like, I can turn this into a business? I made my customers and my clients feel comfortable. I have a system in which I deliver the product, and I deliver it on time. The anxiety and the angst that comes from the customer or the client, he was like, I was able to put them at ease. And as a result of that, I like working with him because I know that I can depend on him. I know what I'm going to get. Based on you listening to this podcast, you're probably a creative entrepreneur who's ready to stop hustling for clients and start building a business that runs on purpose, profit, and peace.
If that's you, we want to invite you to join the Creative to CEO Challenge, a 5-day live coaching experience designed to help you shift your mindset and develop the habits to turn your creativity into consistent cash flow.
And it's all happening live on Zoom inside a private community of ambitious creative entrepreneurs just like you. People who are done guessing, done grinding, and ready to build with clarity and confidence.
By the end of the challenge, you will have a crystal clear direction on your next 90 days, a profit plan that fits your lifestyle, and the framework to start earning 10K plus months doing what you love without burning out or selling out.
So if that sounds like what you need, then tap the link in the description or scan the QR code if you're watching this on screen. And do not forget to upgrade to VIP for bonus coaching and behind the scenes Q&A every day of the challenge with me and Shai.
We can't wait to help you unlock CEO mode and the freedom you've been working for. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Welcome to the Minding My Creative Business podcast, the #1 podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn strategy, structure, and sustainability and self-development. I am your co-host, Ron Ironically Jr.
And I am your co-host, Shai Speaks. And today it's going to be pretty cool. I'm resisting the urge to say it's going to be my favorite since I say that for all the episodes. But it's going to be pretty cool. Why? Because this is the season 5 recap where we give you an opportunity to kind of come behind the episode with us in case you missed it, and we give you nuggets and tips of what happened with some of the guests that you like. Listen, these are usually fire, so stay locked in right here. And also, this is also pretty cool because our season recaps are always live. So if you are tuning in live, shout out to you, right? Feel free to drop us a comment because we are going to be interacting with you live. If you're listening to this on the replay or the audio version of the podcast, shout out to you as well. Please stay tuned. It's pretty fun, but also next time, make sure you hop on the live, right? So you can be interactive and not just listen. But we always enjoy your listening. You listening, and we always enjoy you watching. However you tune in. So again, if you live, chop in. We're gonna make it interactive. Now let's get into this season 5 recap. Run. First of all, season 5.
Season 5. Listen, that's what I wanted to highlight as well. I don't want us to brush over that because me and Shai, we are CEO, COO, and we're executives. So we're like in the weeds and we're keeping it moving and grinding and doing things. But sometimes we got to stop and acknowledge and celebrate. So not only is this season 5, but this is year 2 of me and Shai doing this. We started this in January. We published this in January of 2024, and we are now here in March of 2026. So we gotta clap it up for that, though. We gotta
clap it up. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, that is really crazy. Also, there's something really cool that happened at the 2-year mark. We realized that we've been experiencing entrepreneurship on our own, and then we've also been like going behind the brands of all these 6-7 figure creative entrepreneurs, and so we're like, okay, I think we have something here. I think we're gaining enough information that it's time for us to start sharing it back with our community, not just in conversation, right? These podcast conversations are really cool, but we want to invite creative entrepreneurs into something else because of the 2 years. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah. So what we decided to do is we created a creative to CEO challenge to where we were like, listen, we can give more of ourselves based off of what me and Shai bring to the table, and then based off of these conversations that we've been having. So we like, listen, let's put it in this 5-day challenge. We're going to help those creative entrepreneurs that want to transition and transform where they currently are to that next level. So if they're feeling stuck, they're feeling overwhelmed because they don't have the proper strategy in place, or they don't have the proper systems in place to support the sustainability that we know that they could and should have, together this challenge. So, I mean, it's a dope challenge where creative entrepreneurs are going to walk away with a 90-day CEO plan on the page. And with that 90-day CEO plan on the page, we're going to help you generate reoccurring, predictable revenue based on your signature offer that you're going to create within this 5-day challenge. So listen, I'm excited about it because it starts soon, right? It's like literally like from this recording, it starts in a week, right? So, you know, I don't know when y'all listen to it, but we're going to have it to where it's a reoccurring thing where you can participate when when you're ready. But we're encouraging you, be a part of this challenge because it's fire.
It really is. Sitting down, creating this curriculum in commemoration of our 2 year was like something that was like intriguing for Ron and I to do. But we were also like, man, we're really giving them a lot in this 5-day challenge.
Yeah.
That's the part that was like, man, you really will walk away with some amazing stuff. And so, like Ron, you were saying earlier, whenever you're ready, like we say, whenever you're ready. If you miss this cohort, depending on when you watch, not this challenge, but depending on when you watch it, you'll always have the opportunity to join the wait list or join the very next challenge, right? Because we're going to keep them coming. Now, you ready to get back into it?
Yes, let's get back into it. Let's go into these episodes from season 5. And we were in Houston. We had the opportunity and the privilege of being in Houston for season 5 during Afrotech. And we just had some phenomenal guests. Like we started off the season with Jalea from Iconic Television, right? And she just was dropping so many gems, and just hearing her journey to where when she was in that, 8th grade, she's like, when I was in 8th grade, I knew I wanted to go into media, right? And then starting from being in 8th grade to then having the chance to intern at a television company, and just all the things that she did within that internship, all the skills that she developed, then to transition into owning her own television company or her own television network. Let me get the verbiage correct. Not a company, but a network. A network that provides 24-hour, 365 programming to people. And it was just dope hearing just her journey, right? It was like the epitome of creative courage, right? And it was like that courage took place before the ownership or before the opportunity, right? She set into who she was, and that's one of the things that highlighted to me.
Yeah, the creative courage. She was definitely bold because in order to take on a network, right? And for those of you guys who are in film, whether that's short film, long form movies, TV series, whatever it is that you're into, that's one thing to create the one program. But for her to try to reach out to all the people who are looking to get their program placed and provide 24/7 like programming on this channel, that was that most people will be like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. Like, I don't know enough content. I can't find enough content. I don't know, and so creative courage is a word. I'm gonna stick with that. That's the theme of her episode. And really cool.
No, I mean, and then just even hearing how she didn't have the financing by the network, right? Her character, right, allowed for her to, for the person that was selling the network, they was like, I saw what you did with the other network that wasn't yours. Like, you deserve this network. I'm going to sell it to you for pennies on the dollar. I'm not even going to get what it's worth because, you know, he had a precedent situation that he had to deal with. Go back, watch the episode. But it was like, yo, and she didn't have the money to buy it. But she had angel investors, right? As we said, not even angel investors. They were angel donators, where they were based on how she handled that network and how she showed up and who she was character-wise. They was like, listen, we'll give this to you because you deserve this based off who you've been consistently, how you showed up, how you handled somebody else's, right? Now now it's time for you to move into ownership in your own. So here, take this. Don't even pay us back. We don't want nothing back. We just want to see you shine. Like, that was like, man, that was phenomenal.
It's so much to that one that I don't even know what to say. Like, that's literally phenomenal is the word. When I think about it, it reminds me of one of our previous seasons, and we kept seeing a through line with all these creative entrepreneurs, and that was they had this mentorship type of moment that whether they sought the mentor or they were there for a job or whatever, there was this kind of breeding ground there. They had a Mr. Miyagi, if you will, that was teaching them how to wax on and wax off, you know. And so, but yeah, so ultimately, I feel like a lot of people shy away from doing the work. That's what she kept talking about in her episode. She was like, because they're like, I just want to start the thing. How you just want to start the thing? You don't even know how to do the thing. She said, so when she did it, she started doing what she got hired for. And then she did almost every single role in the network, right?
Yeah.
That's putting in the work. And I think sometimes we just like, I remember, matter of fact, I remember somebody personally coming to me, hey, you know, I see you out here doing some of the influencer stuff, They was like, you know, just tell me what to do. And I was like, won't you, it'll be easier for you to come and help me, come and let me, like, follow me rather, like shadow what I'm doing, right? As you shadow me, so much more will be taught, you know, will be caught than I can just teach you. Yeah. But they didn't want to shadow me. Yeah. And I'm not talking about this as it relates to me, because it's not, but whoever the television network was for Jaleel Davis, our guest, it wasn't about that person. It was really about her. She wound up becoming the main character in her own story. But first, she was willing to shadow him, you know. And so his inability to shadow, he didn't want to learn how to do the things. He just wanted to just start doing it. And it's like, yeah, I guarantee you, he's still not doing it.
No, and listen, and that's real. Like she said, I did everything from cleaning the toilets to running the cameras to getting coffee. So that's a part of the matriculation. That's a part of the journey. Like I tell people, you can't go from A to Z. You can't just be like, oh, idea, okay, cool, and then end up at Z, the destination. No, you got to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through the whole process. So no, that's huge. That's huge, Shai.
Man.
And I love go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that to say like that's everybody's path. Some people just start the thing. Yeah. I was with a musician this past weekend. He's not just a musician; he also owns a production company and all that. And so he's not the only person that runs the production company. He has a team of people that do that, but obviously he still knows how to play. And I was around two musicians like that, but he was saying how he never had to like work a job, so to speak. But then again, too, he was raised around musicians, a musical family. Like his uncle played on These Last $2. So technically, he always had a shadow shift there. So I say that to say, I'm not just trying to emphasize going to work for somebody and shadowing somebody so that you can be somebody's. But I'm talking about you're going to have to shadow in some regard. And so how that shadowing led to her knowing so much that other people who were partnering her said, hey, we want you to be able to be the person to buy this network. So it was really a 2-for-1 episode. It was like spotlighting that shadowship and mentorship, but also acquiring a company all in the same time. It was a lot in that.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I mean, like I said, and I know we can stay here forever, but yeah, we gonna move on. So, but listen, go back, listen to the episode, or watch the episode. There was a lot of gems being dropped there. Next, we had the honor of interviewing Mr. Terry Williams, who is a a Harvard, right, certified mindset and high performance coach, right? And just kind of hearing him break down his PGR framework was dope,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, you know, he didn't coin it that, I kind of coined it that. So it's like, don't forget, Terry. Listen, if you trademark that, just know where you got it from, right?
Yes. That PGR.
Yeah, that PGR. But no, that was phenomenal, right? Where he was just talking about, you know, every client that he goes through, he takes them through that framework as far as helping them identify purpose, right? And just the importance of purpose. And then not only purpose, but then it's like, okay, cool. Like now let's focus on your growth. You're here, right? But now you're trying to get to here. And in that growth, there's discomfort in that growth. And that's okay because that's part of the process. But even in that, once again, going to that art and then learning how to rest. And like I said, because as creative entrepreneurs, CEOs, right, we have a tendency of focusing on hustle culture and grind culture. So we don't rest as much as we should. But he was like, no, I'm encouraging people to lean into that rest because it's like your phone. And that's the analogy that he gave. If your phone dies, right? If you don't charge your phone, then it dies and it becomes useless. Same thing with you. If you don't rest, rejuvenate, you know what I'm saying, recover, then, you know.
There's that. Now, he wasn't. So for those of you guys who are like, that episode sounds kind of cool, rest. No, he's a mindset and high performance coach. So he didn't just talk about rest. That's just one important aspect. He talked about purpose and growth, right? And so he realizes when it comes to being a high performer, how does he know what it takes to be a high performer? Because he wasn't just Harvard trained. He also has worked for the NBA or for teams with the NBA, and he's worked with athletes, and personally training those athletes. He started realizing that I'm not just personally training them, I'm actually working with them from a mindset level. And then in the season, there's a certain mindset, but then in playoffs, there's a certain mindset. And then in postseason, there's a certain mindset. And then as it relates to keeping my family going, there's a so he's constantly realizing that if you're going to perform at the highest level, you have to have a certain thing. That same thing showed up with high executives that he coaches, like other CEOs and executives. He was like, he realizes that in order to grow, you have to expose yourself to something that he called, it's a real term, you can look it up, it's called eustress. You remember that part?
Yeah, I remember that.
Eustress. Eustress is, I really recommend it for creative entrepreneurs because it is where you take on something daunting, like a task that's going to, is going to be good stress. Ultimately, eustress is like good stress. It's like you're intentionally doing something that's going to press you and it's going to push you, but it's intentional so that it can grow you.
Yeah. And it's not life altering, right? If you don't do this thing, it's not like you didn't lost $1 million and it's catastrophic, right? But it's just something to where it's like you said, if you cooking a meal and you burn the meal, it's kind of messed up, right? You're gonna feel some kind of way, right? It's gonna keep you on your toes to make sure. Okay, I gotta make sure that the temperature's right and all that type stuff, but it ain't catastrophic. But no. Listen, I love that because I walked away with that. There is like, okay, what can I add? What eustress can I add to my life that's going to help to develop and build me up, right? I like that. I like that.
And he talked about some of them go to CrossFit training or some of these intense, high intensity, high interval training, HIIT classes and things like that. I'm not going there necessarily because I need to bulk up or beef up. I've already worked out, I already did that, but they're just going there because it's to push their brain. But that's not just on the physical level, like you talked about with your cooking. And that's why I said I recommend it to creative entrepreneurs, because a lot of times we start creating, we start monetizing all the hobbies. You know, I even had a part in the song I say, I'm monetizing my hobby back and forth like this volley. Something I said, who knows? But the point is, I was talking about getting to the point where I started realizing, I can make money off this, I can make money off that. But when I want to make money off of everything you do, perhaps you can do something that's creative, right? It doesn't have to be physical. You can go do something that's creative that you won't necessarily make money off of every day as you're doing it. Right. but you may eventually make money off it. Who knows? But it's the whole purpose is to expose yourself to good stress so that when it messes up, you know, it's like, dang, I don't want to mess up now, because if I mess up, it's a big deal. It's a big waste of time. But it's also at the same time, it's okay, you know. So I encourage that. One of the tasks I'm taking on right now is I am writing a book. Now, that's not necessarily what you would consider. Come on, yeah, yeah. I'm not. That's not necessarily what you would consider like eustress typically, but it would be what you would call a big, hairy, audacious goal. And it's like this goal that you put in place so that you're working towards it. Like at the end of it's going to take a lot to bring it together. It's not a one-time sit-down process. Like if you bake a cake, you can sit down and do it all in one. But this type of goal is like you got to write it, edit it, get the illustration, the artwork. There's so much that goes into it. So my goal for this year is to publish a book. So that's a sort of eustress that's created for me. Now I don't want to get off into just what's going on in my life. I want you to apply these things to your life. But we talked about purpose. Purpose. We won't take time unpacking that P. We want you to go hear from him, because it's Harvard backed training. Like there's so much rich content, and it's not like all like word vomiting over you and super intellectual stuff. He makes it very practical and very clear. And then the cool thing was not just what he was talking about, it's how he was able to monetize that, right? So we talked about Miss Jalea Davis. We know that there's some money in having a television network. I mean, that's probably the obvious there, and advertising. But he talked about being a mindset and high performance coaching. There's a business model to coaching, and he talked about coaching from a different perspective. Previously on the MMCB season, I can't remember which season, I think maybe 3, don't quote me on that, but we had a lady who was a coach, but she was a different type of coach, and she talked about coaching on the individual level. He talked about high performance coaching when you're going in and getting organizational and enterprise level contracts. Yeah. I'm telling you want to go watch it.
Definitely go watch it.
Yeah, go ahead. You got something you want to say about that?
No, listen, you covered it. I mean, once again, we don't want to give too much because we want to encourage you, if you didn't watch it, to go back and watch it. But no, I mean, Terry, because he hit it from so many angles, from him being a business owner and just as far as just resources. Like that was the first episode that we did. We opened up our resources to creative entrepreneurs. You know, our what's the word, segment, right? Where it's like, we want to provide resources to you. So some of these, you know, though he is a creative entrepreneur, that was a resource too, where it's like, okay, yeah, listen to the story, but listen to the tools that he's giving you, just so that you as a creative entrepreneur can be okay and be on point within here, your mind, your mental.
Yeah, your mindset. Get your mindset. Okay, so moving on. Because it's not, it's not just your mindset, but it's also the framework around how to be that type of coach for those of you guys who are creative entrepreneurs, movers and shakers that are interested in that. Now, when we talk about the next episode, that's an episode that was just with you and I. Let's kind of keep that one brief so we can get on to the next guest. Okay. Yeah. So, because we want to go watch this one. This one's episode 36, right?
Yeah.
So it was meeting rhythms, thinking like a CEO. Meeting rhythms, thinking like a CEO. The reason why we thought this one was important, because a lot of people who are newly into the creative entrepreneur space oftentimes came out of a job. And when you were at a job, that job could have ultimately had like boring meetings. And so you have this disdain for meetings. Unfortunately, though, not going to work for you now that you have become a CEO. You have to get into the point of establishing a rhythm for meetings. Go ahead, Ron, because you know I get excited.
No, definitely. And we talked about like the importance of those meetings and why those meetings are important, right? It's like these are decision environments, right? If you're not meeting, then how are you making decisions, right? And sometimes you need to have a meeting of just one if it's just you, right? But then we also talked about, you know, bringing other people a part of the meeting that needs to be a part, and we'll kind of give you that four, it's 4 P's that we talked about later. But hold on there. Let me just skip to that. Like I said, we're gonna keep this one brief. So we introduce you to the 4 P's, the framework. So it's purpose, people, process, and then the payoff or the product. So purpose. Why are we having a meeting? A lot of times people don't identify why they're having a meeting, right?
Right.
So it's like, okay, we hear what's going on, and that people feel, and it's a lot of feelings and emotion that goes along with that because they don't know what's going on. Then the people, right? Do you have the right people in the meeting, right? It doesn't make sense on having a meeting with the wrong people because you're not being productive now. You need
Right.
the right people. So identifying who needs to be in there, and then the process. Go ahead.
Let's be clear. Just because somebody is on the team, we're like, well, they can be in this meeting. Not
Right.
everybody needs to be in every meeting. And some things that you're going to be discussing as a CEO may be above their pay grade. Nah, I'm just playing. But it may be above their security clearance. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
That's the military in me talking. But no, but seriously, it just may be outside of their scope of work, and they probably really don't care to be in there. Like honestly, you're talking about marketing, and this person is an operations person. They'd rather go work on operations. Let's not tie people's time. So the right people do matter. And I know when you are a creative entrepreneur and you start getting in the habit of meeting, you want to just probably throw everybody all in one meeting and then just be like, let's just go brain dump. But it's like, no, we don't need to be on here. So that's something that you need to think through. Moving to the next P in the 4P framework was the process, right? The process. You have to have a process to your meeting.
Right. And that's, just a lot of times it's an agenda, right? Your agenda is the process, right? Okay, we're going to start here, we're going to end here, and then those things in between. So you just want that smooth process, and it be clear and it's communicated so that the people that are participating are, can follow and be on track. And what's the payoff, right? At the end of every meeting, there should be a payoff, whether it's been you had to communicate something or you had to get buy-in from the team, or there's a call to action, right? So after this meeting, these are your tasks, these are your steps to get us to this goal. Like, what's the payoff? There needs to be something. You should never walk away, or your people should never walk away from the meeting like, what was that about, right? Like, that should never be the case. And listen, I ain't gonna lie, I just left, I don't want to say corporate America. I mean, in the nonprofit world, right? I just left there. And trust me, there would be meetings and I'm like, why am I in this meeting? Or what was the point of that, right? That should never be the case, right? So yeah, make sure you have a clear payoff.
The payoff. What is it? And that's what people think the purpose is. The purpose of the meeting is to talk about whatever, but what is the payoff? What is the product of this meeting? If there will be no product, there is no purpose. So we can just scratch all the P's. Okay. So seriously, you really want to go watch that meeting. We don't just talk about framework. We also talk about meeting. We got into like the meeting rhythms that they need to have, right? As well. So it's not just a monthly meeting with everybody. There are several other meetings you need to have, even with yourself. So you want to definitely watch that one. Let's keep it moving. Episode number 37, we had Miss Shadera Naismith. She was with Stacked Up Academy. Stacked Up Academy is a nonprofit organization that focuses on exposing youth to, how would you put it? She's exposing youth to
it's like coding and AI and just that whole tech, right? It's like tech and she started them off at an early age, right? That's one thing that had me taken aback. I'm like, wait a minute, you're teaching like preschoolers like tech language. She created these flashcards, but she was like, it's like we've simplified it enough, but we want to start helping these young people understand this early, right? And then we can have a stacked, that's what we call a stacked academy, but it's like a ladder approach where it's like, okay, we're going to hit them at this age, right, with this level, then the next level, we're going to make that age appropriate, and just so forth and so forth. And it was just dope. And I love the fact where she really had to niche down what it is that she was doing or who her target audience was. Because it was like, okay, everybody could benefit from it, but it was like, okay, do we want to focus on adults? Like, she was like, no, I want to focus on young people and be very specific, like early education young people, right? So that was a highlight for me, with her identifying who her demographic and audience was.
Right. And I want to go back and clarify what you were saying when you're saying hitting them at different levels. She actually has the Stacked Up Academy have a Stacked Up conference for kids, right? But there's a certain group of kids they're too young to come to the conference. And there are certain group of kids that are kind of like maybe starting to age out, but it's like for the kids who are too young, what is something that we could give them? And that's when she came up with that. She showed us in person. Like, if you want to go on the episode, you'll see there's an ABC book, and you'll also see like, well, how does having a nonprofit organization make you a creative entrepreneur? Well, when you look at how the creativity that went into the book creation, so that she can actually do the programming that nonprofit says that it does. See, a nonprofit can just do a thing without necessarily applying creativity to it. You could, some nonprofits, but there are some nonprofits, most of them that I know of, and the reason why we would consider them creative entrepreneur, there usually is a creative approach whereby they have to come up with different tools, books, materials, resources, events, all of these different things, so that they can drive home what it is, the cause that they're championing. So yeah. And I wanted to bring up that what you meant by that is because on this age group, she has this product. For this age group, we have this product. For that age group, we have this service. And that ultimately bars right back down to entrepreneurship, which is the tiered level of pricing, right? Your small, your medium, your large, ultimately is what she has in place.
No. So check that out. But before we move on to this next episode, we're just gonna take a little sponsor break, right? So don't go nowhere. You know what I'm saying? We'll be right back in about 30 seconds, 60 seconds or so.
You want to know the one thing that's holding most creative entrepreneurs back? It's not the talent. It's not even the vision. It's the lack of capital. Every day I watch brilliant creatives miss life-changing opportunities simply because they can't access business funding. Traditional banks, they really don't understand creative business like that. And most lenders, well, they don't care. But guess what? That ends today with the Minding My Creative Business partnership with Credit Savant. You can access up to $150,000 in business credit. You heard correct. Up to $150,000 in business credit. They have 0% interest options with 30 plus funding programs designed for creatives just like you. So what I need you to do is visit creditsavant.io now. Tell them MMCB sent you.
Yeah, and just like that, we are back. One of the things that I was about to say right before we went on break is that, and when we come back, we'll be answering questions, taking live questions. So if you're tuning in live, please drop a question in the comments, and we're going to incorporate that into this episode, especially pertaining to what we're talking about. So far we went over the season 5 recap. We have Jalea Davis. We had the high performance coach,
Terry Williams.
Terry Williams, and we had of course Shadaria Naismith is where we left off. And in the episode with Ron and I mean, we're really getting into it. We were talking about meetings, thinking like a CEO. And so as we go through these particular episodes and recap, if you had something that hits your mind, even if it doesn't have anything to do with it, maybe if it's applicable and we have time, we'll get to your question. We want to answer it right here live for this episode, so that if you're listening to it, you will be incentivized to come back and join us via the live, because you can get your questions answered in real time and be a part of the podcast. Speaking of being a part of the podcast, I got a question. We got a question from the live audience. We had a question from DJ J Lex, and she said, at what stage in my business planning would it be most cost effective, not cost effective, to bring everyone together in one meeting? At what stage of my business planning would it be most effective to bring everyone together?
I would say at the beginning, right? Or after you say, okay, this is what it is that I want to do, right? When you solidify that vision, then I would say bring people in so that you can kind of, share with them, okay, this is what it is I want to do. This is my why, right? So you have your what and your why, because then at that point, you may not know how to go about doing it. So then you can bring in other people to assist you in figuring out that how. I mean, that's That's what I say. What you say, Shai?
I agree, but I know it's so typical of you because you're gonna say like, get that vision, run, love, making sure you got that vision clarity. I know that's right. Get the vision together, get it clear. No, I agree. I think that a lot of times we want to hop out there and then just start doing the business, but it's like get crystal clear on what you're doing seriously and what you will need help with or what you think you'll need help with. And then like, okay, this is, so you don't want to invite people into chaos, basically.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to invite them into chaos. You have a vision, and I want you guys to help me run with it. This is where you'll come in and so forth and so on. So I would say, your first planning meeting probably needs to be with somebody who's a strategist or somebody who's a coach, somebody who's a mentor, or somebody who you're just simply going to bounce the ideas off of. That's probably going to be the first couple of meetings that you're going to have. And then once you have that crystal clear vision, what you're doing, and you come to yourself and say, okay, here are all the people who I want to bring to the table. Now I want to start having an all teams meeting just so everybody can introduce ourselves to each other, and then talk about, there needs to be a purpose though, but there also needs to be a product of the meeting. What are you getting out of the meeting? Hopefully that was helpful, and that is something that can be more so expounded upon if you go back and watch the episode, which is what we're encouraging you to do. That is episode number 36, Meeting Rhythms, Thinking Like a CEO. Now, let's keep it moving. And again, if you have questions, please drop them in the comments. We will incorporate them into this live episode.
Definitely. And listen, make sure that y'all doing the things, the likes, the comments, and the shares and things like that, right? I'm going to put that out there. But as she said, let's continue. So next we go on to episode 38 with Tolu Berry, owner of T Berry Films. Right. So this brother is a Nigerian immigrant, right? But listen, he developed this passion for photography at a young age. His mom brought him a camera, right? He was doing like graphic design and things like that. So his mother saw that he was creative, and she bought him this, this point and shoot camera. And then he said from there, he just fell in love with photography. And as he was taking photos, and once again, he stumbled across somebody being willing to pay him for his photography. And he was like, oh, wait a minute, I can monetize this. Like I can turn this into a business. Right. Yeah. And then he decided to turn it into a business. Right. But one thing that stood out to me is that he emphasized that creative excellence alone, right, does not guarantee opportunity. Like he was real big on that. He was like, listen, there's a lot of talented and gifted people, but he was like, okay, how can I separate myself? What can I bring to the table, right, that's going to help me stand apart, that people are going to remember me, and that's going to continue to either give me other opportunities or I can, increase their value as a customer, right? That's one thing that really, 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 really stood out to me.
And that was really important because he's particular about the camera. He said he was studying the shutters, the ISO, all the different terminology. He was saying so many. I didn't even know the camera had that many technical features. He was saying so many things. And so, I mean, for him, somebody who is a true technician, to realize that you have to position yourself, it really goes like that should really hit your mind. Like, what does he mean when you say you need to position yourself? And he began to position himself in a certain way so that he can begin to move from like that very first $50 he made to moving on to 4-figure deals with regard to his photography and photography business. So before we finish this up, I just want to let you know we have another question from the live community. I'm telling you guys, if you're listening to this, make sure when we're live and we're doing our live episodes, hop in because we'll answer your questions. Now, we're going to get to that question, but let's kind of wrap up what we were talking about with Tolu, because Tolu was pretty fire. He had that 4-figure deal. Then he moved on talking about that 5-figure deal.
Yeah.
So we, that means 1,000, 2,000, 8,000, 9,000. But then he moved on to 10s and the 15s and the 20s. And so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. No, and he talked about that came about as a result of him being able to develop and establish relationships, right? He was like, I made my customers and my clients feel comfortable. So there's one thing within the shoot, they feel comfortable with me there. I'm professional. I'm on time, right? I'm not late. I'm not delayed. And not only am I not late during the shoot, but when it comes to me delivering, right, the product, I have a system in which I deliver the product and I deliver it on time. They're not having to wonder when is it being delivered. So it's like the anxiety and the angst that comes from the customer or the client. He was like, I was able to put them at ease. And as a result of that, that positions me in a place to where it's like, okay, I like working with him because I know that I can depend on him. I know what to expect. I know what I'm going to get, opposed to it being different every time where it's like, well, I don't know if he's going to show up, or I don't know when I'm going to get my stuff. Like, no, he was like, no, I was very intentional about those small things that a lot of times us as creators, if we being honest, like, let's be real, right? Sometimes we may lack in. He was like, nope, I was intentional to not lack in those areas. So that created the positioning and the leverage for me to be able to develop these relationships.
Right, right. He also talked about just regular old likability too, with regard to that, like bringing a positive energy to a situation. I like a lot of times people, they think they can just show up with their skill, their talent, and that's, but you rude,
Right.
you bring your skill and your talent, but you dry.
Right.
You bring your skill and your talent, but you're not good to be around. You bring a damper to the environment. Like that's not gonna work. And so, especially with where he's going, he was talking about seeing a photographer friend make this much money, and then the next thing you know, they're making that much money, and they're working for these high-end brands, and these brands bring them on for campaigns. You're talking about minimum campaigns of like $15,000, and this type of photography that goes on side of buildings and goes in Times Square, right? These are high quality footage. You got to bring the right energy to the situation. And so I just wanted to shout out that the meticulousness that he had with the skill and the strategic positioning, because ultimately, how do you wind up taking a picture that goes from your camera to on side of a billboard? A New York Times billboard. How do you wind up in an editorial, a press magazine? How do you wind up in New York or Paris Fashion Week with your photography? You have to strategically place yourself, and that's what he was working on with his team. He had an administrator. I think he has like a 3-person team at this point.
Yeah.
And one person's goal is to go and try to position him in the realm of business that he wants to be in. Another person is handling the administrative and the operation stuff on the back end. I think he had another person that may do some slight editing for him because he knows that he wants to edit his stuff a certain way. He has the eye still. So, but like, that stuff is important. All of it is very important. Go watch the total episode. If you're a photographer, videographer, and you're trying to go from the individual level, the $300, the 3-figure deals to like the 10-figure deals, because he dropped a lot of gems. Last but not least, we had episode number 39. I'm sorry, that's not last but not least, because last but not least is ours.
But you said you had a question before we go to that one. Do you want to ask the question?
Oh yeah, definitely. See, I said that so the community is commenting. And you almost didn't get your question answered. Yes, we're going to go to episode number 39, and then last but not least, the episode that Ron and I did. So we won't stay there long on that episode that you and I did, because I do want to make room for this question. The question asked is, if people understand your vision but does not help execute, at what point do you move on versus sticking it out, allowing time to grow together as a team? If they understand the vision, but they're not really helping you execute.
Oh yeah, I believe in. They say hire slow, fire fast, right? And listen, this might not be somebody that you're necessarily paying. This might be somebody that you maybe put together a board of advisors or whatever. I mean, regardless of what it is, let them go, because you're wasting to me, right? And this is Ron. You're wasting time and energy trying to get them to execute, right? It's like, no, I don't have the time and energy because I have to I'm building this thing, and you're slowing me down from building it, because now I have to either do your job for you or I have to micromanage. If I got to micromanage, then why do I have you here? You want to find people that they understand the vision, but they can execute without you having to babysit or hold hands and things like that. Because once again, you as the creative CEO, you have things that you have to do. The reason why you brought them on is to be your hands and your feet and things like that. And like I said, that's it's a blanket statement. I'm sure there's more context to it, but just in general, that's how I work. That's how I'm responding.
I like the response. Hire, slow, fire, fast. I would say a lot of times we have to make sure it's not our lack of communication first. I always take responsibility and ownership for that. I encourage people to hire assistants, and I've helped people hire like virtual assistants. Like, where do I start? Where do I get it from? I can help you get with the whole process. But once you hire that person, right, and that doesn't have to be an assistant, as an employee, somebody who you're collaborating with, you're working with, somebody who sometimes we haven't communicated what we expect of them to do. They get the vision, they're around, they're like, hey, I'm just around, but it's like, have you really communicated the expectation so that it's very clear on what you're supposed to do? And then if they don't do it, then hire slow, fire fast, right? So because it's just gonna waste a lot of time. Because sometimes you're like, well, that person is just they're doing it, but they're not quite. No, like if they're doing something, but they're not doing it all the way well, verify first that it's not you as the leader who hasn't empowered them properly to do their job. Right? Have you empowered them? Because you want them to do a thing, but you hold all the keys. You're going to have to take some keys off of your key ring and let somebody else unlock the door, right? The person who owns Smoothie King is not unlocking the door every day at all the Smoothie Kings. Somebody else is unlocking, right? And I said it to say, so make sure you've given them the power, and then also make sure you've communicated well, and then get them to communicate back to you that they know what the expectation is. Like, hey, this is the vision. I know what I'm supposed to do. This is exactly what I have done. I'll get it done. Now, if they say all that and you say all that and y'all are all systems go and they don't get it done, go with what Ron said. Hire slow, fire fast, and move on quickly.
Yeah, no, I concur. Thank you, and I appreciate you. You adding that. Yes, there is a onus of responsibility that we take as the leaders to make sure that we've done our part. So I just assume that you did your part, but thank you for that. All right, so. All right, let's we're gonna land this plane. We got 2 more episodes that we want to share with you guys and highlight. The next one we had the pleasure of interviewing Kiara Dotson. All right, Kiara Dotson, she has been focused on the area of AI. Right, we know that a lot of things going on AI, and that's kind of like was her expertise. But she unpacked how internal clarity drives external authority, right? So we talked a lot about some of the tools that she shared, but then we also talked about a lot of stuff that goes on internally inside us as the entrepreneur or as the CEO, but that internal stuff, it translates external, right? So we got to start inward a lot of times with this work so that it can make its way out, right? I like the fact that she shared some of the tools that, she was using in this space. I know some of the tools that I've used personal, right, that I've used as thought partners and things like that, like Claude and Manus is a new one. I remember her mentioning on there, just helping to be, a thought leader and growing and developing in this space. So that was, those are some of the things that stood out to me. What about for you, Shai, when it came to Kiara's episode?
I think I was more so kind of like with Tolu. I was more so impressed with the level of understanding that she has about it. I think I've all too often saw people try to create a thing and they just know a little bit about it. Like they just kind of barely barely know. It's like, you may want to have a deeper understanding about this as well. So I think I want to shout out to her for understanding the realm that she's walking in. Again, season 5 was filmed in Houston. We were at Afrotech. She was one of the speakers or one of the presenters, or she had a role there. You don't have a role talking about something, and she shared at other conferences as well from what she told us, because she understands what she does pretty well. And so that was the thing that stood out to me. No, I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have an understanding. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I would say her ability to get to the point with what she knows, that she says, okay, you got to move from like, I'm still figuring it out, because it's technology,
Right.
It's data, it's AI. It's like, this stuff is always ever changing. Technology is moving fast.
Yeah.
You're always going to be figuring it out. But at this point, at this juncture, I'm qualified enough to lead from where I am. That was an aha moment, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. You got to get to that point. Every creative entrepreneur needs to get to that point. Like, maybe your deal is not in the technological field. You could even be in the cosmetology, but there are certain things in cosmetology that are changing. The cut styles are changing, the color styles are changing, different techniques people are using. There's always going to be something that's going and moving, but confidence. At this point, I know enough. Then the other thing was the data of how she was talking about using the data. Right? She talked about, she understands the importance of data. She understands how companies are being driven by data, but she was talking about making it plain for creative entrepreneurs to know how to know what to look for. And I think that ultimately in the episode we landed on, get you some KPIs, like get you some key performance indicators, whatever those are. I'm sure that there's some data that needs to be associated with those. And then she talked about making data informed decisions, right? Sure, you can have your weekly meetings, you can have your team there and everybody putting their opinion in. But here in this episode, in walks data. And then we're going to look at the data, and we're going to let the data tell us and dictate to us what we should do. That's what I enjoyed about it. It's ultimately a resource of an episode. So I would just recommend that you go check it out. It's not the fastest paced episode. It's a thinker. You want to apply your mind to understanding data and to knowing what data do I have? What data you think you don't have any data, but you do. Every business does. We're always collecting something. And if we're not collecting something, you need to be collecting something that's tied to your key performance indicators that you're trying to watch, so that when you come to said meetings, when you come to said decisions, you're making data-informed decisions. Let's keep it moving before we wrap up this episode. We said we're going to end with episode number 40, which was the episode with you and I.
Yes. So the last episode 40, was automate the ordinary so that you can focus on the extraordinary. So this was one of Shai's. I know this is, so when she said this is one of her favorites, this is definitely one of her favorites, right? Her being the systems and structure queen, right? So that episode literally focused on the importance of automating, and we talked about the importance of doing a workflow audit, to be exact, right? To where it's like, okay, go in and look at your workflow, audit, so that you can then see what you can automate, delegate, or eliminate, so that you as a creative and then you and your creative business can elevate, right? So yeah, I'm gonna let you. So for me, I know that was key, because like I said, we shared. I shared like my story when I met with a young lady that walked through my workflow audit, and it was like everything that I touched was red, and I'm like, everything was red on the thing except for maybe one or two things, and she was like, yeah, you gotta come on, you're gonna burn yourself out, you gotta make some adjustments. But the episode was just dope. But I'm gonna let you lean in and kind of, this your baby here. So go ahead. Let's talk. What was your highlight? I mean, once again, I know we mainly focused on automation. There's other aspects, but that automation piece was very key that we linked in on. So yeah, go ahead and share yours.
Yeah. So I love what you're talking about. do an audit of what your work is before you start trying to automate. But then when you start automating, the question then becomes, what software, right, am I going to use to handle this automation, right? And before you say, well, what software am I going to use to handle this, you're going to think about, what am I touching repeatedly that can literally be done with technology? Like it can literally, we don't need a person to do this nowadays. Like we don't have to manually send out the email. Like once we manually write it, we can go ahead and schedule the email. That's a form of automation. I know people like automation can get pretty complex, but this is what we mean. Sitting there, the timer had to sit there, look at it, go in, hit send. That can be scheduled, right? Yeah. So when you want to wrap your mind around what automation is, and so we are automating things that are ordinary, as in things that I'm touching repeatedly. Like if I'm doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again, there's a chance that you should stop and look at it and be like, okay, what part of this process can be done through some type of software automation, workflow, trigger? I don't know. I hear people talking about those things, some kind of system that, there's usually so many things that happen on automation that we don't really realize that happen when we're interfacing with other companies. Like, if you're checking onto the plane, if you scan your boarding pass, it then does this. If you upload, like if you have people who have to submit a form, for example, like a survey to you to say that they enjoyed your product, then after they submit that survey, it automatically sends you can automatically send out, hey, thank you so much for doing this survey. You said something so well, we would like to ask if you do a video in exchange for the Starbucks gift card. Like there's some things that happen every time. Like whenever I do this happens. I was going back to the example of when you're at the airport. So much is happening on automation that you don't really realize it. Like scan this and then boop, 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 this happens. When it's just so many things that are unlocking the other. So here's what I would say when you're thinking about automation. Automation is based on triggers and events, right? When I do this, what happens after? When I do this thing, it's going to trigger what event, right? When that person submits this survey, it usually triggers the event for us to send them an email. And then after they get their email, if they respond back with a video, we're going to also respond back with a gift card. Like this thing makes this thing happen and that thing makes that thing happen. Yeah. This is where you start realizing where you can find automation. Hopefully I'm making that clear.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about administrative tasks. A lot of times those are some of the ordinary things, especially for creative entrepreneurs. They don't want to do the admin stuff. You want to just go find you a manager, or you want to go find. So now you're paying somebody to do something that you really could have done with automation. And before you delegate the thing to somebody, think of, is it possible for me to automate this, right? And if you automate it, I'm going to have to find the software. And I'm going to shamelessly plug Savant Sync. It's a software that is a CRM and a sales system all in one. You can run funnels and automations and all of those things all within the platform. It's a platform that I am a founder of. And so go check it out, savantsync.com, and you can have a software that does all the automation. But ultimately, stop being busy doing a whole bunch of admin stuff and stop just trying to hurry up and delegate everything. Look at, is some of this stuff technologically triggering another technological thing? If this form submission is triggering an email submission, is triggering a text message, then that stuff can be automated. I hope that helps you out. Hope that makes sense for you guys.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's all about optimization, right? Yeah, I'm trying to optimize my workflow so that you as the CEO is not overwhelmed and it can still get done, right? So it's like, instead of you having the octopus tentacles where you're trying to do 50 million things, it's like, no, let's figure out, what can be automated so I can go back to excelling at what I'm great at, right? So that mindset shift is going from I'm overwhelmed because I'm growing to I'm overwhelmed because I haven't optimized. So okay, I need to optimize, so let me automate so I can do that. Yeah, and
Yeah, you can, and once you optimize, you'll realize you kind of eliminated some stuff off your plate.
exactly.
You may have not totally eliminated, but you eliminated it off your plate, and yet it's still getting done.
Yeah.
Right. That's the thing. You want to make sure it's still getting done. And if you optimize, as we optimize, we scale. As we scale, we elevate. Right. So these are all things that happen with automation. I was trying to stop myself from going too far in and nerding out. That's really what it was, as I was talking about. I was trying to make it simple. A technological thing triggers another technological thing to happen. When we say technological, like, oh, what technology? No, an email, an SMS, something like that is happening.
Right.
A Slack channel is being sent. Something is happening.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Booking is happening. Just
yeah.
It's simply put, a lot of things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Look at them and figure out, before I start paying somebody else to do it, how can I automate it? Because ultimately, they may not even want to do it. It may be redundant for them. It may not even be a good use of their time. Yeah. Automation is not a bad thing. Automation has been around from the beginning. And then there are some things you cannot automate. That's one of the things that we learned when we were talking to a guest of ours. She was saying she realized that she tried to have everything on autoresponder and all that, and sometimes people just need a human touch, but you cannot figure that out until you go in and audit, come up with a workflow, and begin to start working on your workflows and what can be automated. And after you figure that out, let me know.
Right.
Because I guarantee you, I can point you in the right direction of how to get it all systematized and set up. I've done it over and over again. So anyway, that's pretty much concludes season 5. I didn't think it was going to take us that long to say all of it, but it was so much,
Yeah, it was jam-packed. Season 5 was jam-packed. I mean, definitely one of my favorite seasons thus far. Houston, y'all showed out, right? We had some phenomenal guests that came through. It was dope. I'm so excited because, listen, we just filmed. I'm letting y'all in behind the scenes. We just filmed season 6. So season 6 is coming soon, and y'all gonna love season 6. But I'm not gonna talk about that because we still wrapping up season 5, and we want y'all to go back and, like I said, these episodes that we just talked about, go back and watch them. Leave comments on them. Ask questions, right? Like, that's what we're here for. We want you to leave comments, ask questions. We're here to support you as you're on your creative entrepreneur journey, right? This is what this whole platform is for, to empower you as the creative CEO on your creative entrepreneur journey. So
yeah, that's what it's for. We are empowering creative entrepreneurs. How you like that, Ron?
No, listen, I love it. Listen, y'all don't understand. I left my 9-to-5 job
so
to do this, to continue to build this platform for creative entrepreneurs, because me and Shai believe that creatives make some of the best CEOs, and creatives build some of the best businesses. And you just have to learn how to mind your creative business, because you focus so much on the creativity that you don't develop the strategy and the structure so that you can be sustainable. So that's what this is all about. So like we're bought into this. This is what we're doing. So I'm telling y'all, hop on this train. It's because it's gonna be a dope ride.
And also stop saying I'm gonna do it later.
Yes.
I'm gonna work on my business stuff later.
Yes.
And you keep wondering why you're frustrated financially. You need to start minding your creative business. And on that note, I actually want to end this episode with a mantra that we always say as pertaining to minding your creative business. This whole time Ron has talked, I've talked, we talked about what the guests talked about. We encourage you to go back and watch episodes from season 5 because there's so much to glean there. But we want you to talk. We want you to hear yourself speak, because affirmations matter. So here's what we're going to do. I want you to repeat after me. Everybody, we're going to say it all together out loud. Okay, if you don't say it out loud, I'm going to come through the screen into your phone. No, I'm going to come through the screen and through your car, your audio, wherever speakers you listen to this phone. I'm coming, right? But no, seriously, here's what I want you to say. As we end this episode, I want you to say our mantra. Before I tell you the mantra, please, please like this episode. Please subscribe wherever you're listening to this at. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're watching all the way up to this point, listening to this point, you are the real MVP. And again, please join the 5-day Creative to CEO Challenge. Creative to CEO Challenge. There's some link somewhere around that you can get to that. I'm telling you, you definitely want to do it. Now, back to this mantra. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. All it takes is intention, consistency, and laser focus to mind my creative business. And on that note, peace. We out.